If I had been more situationally aware in the past, I would probably never have ended up with a gun to my head twice. I'm Clarice, you're on the Live Ready channel, and I'm going to share my best situational awareness tips, having learned some valuable lessons that will save you the trouble. Situational awareness is cultivated through being aware of your environment, possible changes in your environment, being aware of your vulnerabilities, and then being able to act accordingly. It requires a bit of forward thinking and acumen. The best way to be situationally aware is to think like your adversary. And a couple of things that your adversary would consider are your routines, your habits, your vulnerable points, and the best time to attack you. Other people are not the only threat to us though. There are things in our environment that could also pose a threat to us, and being able to predict change or a threat is a good skill to have. Learn to do a bit of profiling of the people in your environment and learn how to identify when someone is a threat by the clothing that they wear, the way that they act, the way that they move, the way that they look around, and very often they can try to remain inconspicuous but actually give themselves away. Secondly, assume that you are always being watched, and you most probably are being watched, whether it's just by someone who's sitting at a coffee shop and doing a bit of people watching, or whether you are actually being watched by someone with malicious intent. There's probably always someone watching you. I've been in 2 armed robberies, both times in my home. The second time I was alone, and they came in and asked for specific things that I had carried into my house over a 2-week period. That means that for 2 weeks they had been watching me before they finally decided to act. Thirdly, know your weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, and the faster we identify those, the faster we can get ahead. Lately, we're so absorbed in technology on our cell phones, our computers, and our iPads that we don't notice what's going on around us. But even here where I am standing now, speaking to a camera, I'm vulnerable to attack from behind, whether it be by a leopard or a poacher or just someone who wants to relieve me from my personal possessions. I have a weakness. Fourthly, pay attention to what your senses are telling you. The noise in an environment, a change in noise, the change in the wind direction, a change in temperature. If you're in the city, changes in noise or anomalies or things that your subconscious picks up can be an early warning system for you for a disaster. If you're sitting at a traffic light in the city, don't just pay attention to the traffic light or the new message that's on your phone. Look around you. What's around you in your environment that could be a threat or a possible danger to you? Our subconscious picks up all of these different cues, and we often just disregard them. The second time I was in an armed robbery, I was actually awake in the middle of the night. The cat had actually woken me up, and I knew that there was something going on, but I assumed that there was another cat in the house. Had I actually paid attention to that feeling, that gut feeling, that early warning, I would probably have been able to defend myself better. That brings me to my 5th point. Just because you don't detect it doesn't mean it's not there. And even though you shouldn't have to worry all the time, you should try to be alert most of the time. Now, how I've learned to identify a threat in the wilderness early on is to check for spoor and sign. And any birds or any animals that scatter when I approach tell me that there is probably not another predator or another human being in that area. So I'm probably quite safe. And if I find spoor or anything like that around, then I know that there might have been someone moving in that area, unless it is an animal like an antelope spoor. Then there are some other sources of information to consider. Things like social media. And it's actually how we knew to evacuate from the fire that came past our house a couple of years back. My boyfriend couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, and he was on Facebook and saw a Facebook post that warned us that there was a fire close by our house at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we did actually manage to evacuate on time. So watching the news, staying on top of the political climate in your area, and staying on top of world news could definitely help you, especially staying on top of the weather forecast. Number 7, know the environment that you're in. Make sure that if something goes wrong, you have a plan or a strategy. Without being paranoid, you can consider every environment and where the exit points are. I now don't like sitting anywhere that I can't have my back against a wall. I like to be able to monitor the situation or the area that I'm in, and I like to have an exit plan. When I was held up, I was completely trapped inside my bedroom and there were burglar bars on all of the windows that I could not get through. I had absolutely no options but to comply and to stay in that situation. Number 8, if you do end up in a hairy situation, handle it with focus and acumen. You don't always have to have a fighting plan. Sometimes it's best just to cooperate, and it's going to depend on the situation that you're in. So even though I was completely outnumbered and unarmed in the armed robberies, I still managed to get out of it alive because I read the situation and I acted accordingly. There is a time for everything. Number 9, don't drop your guard and don't be naive. Situational awareness is not something that I do now and forget about it later. It is a continuous process. Maintain that little bit of cynicism, it might save your life. Number 10, never assume that lightning doesn't strike twice. I now live with PTSD, I'm hyper-vigilant, I never go to bed without locking all of the doors and windows, and I live expecting another attack because it puts me a step ahead without being paranoid. I truly hope that this message can help other people and prevent them from having to experience the same trauma I have. If you've liked this video, remember to hit subscribe and the notification bell to see every time I put a new video out. And until the next time, please live ready.